Part 3. The place where I left heaven. I hereby state that what I have written here, I believe is the truth to the best of my memory, my knowledge and my understanding. I have tried to only write what I can clearly remember and write this without any exaggeration. The conversations that took place are as close as possible to what I can remember was said and thought at the time. I can clearly remember a few hours before I left heaven. I was standing in my small home when I heard someone call out to me from just outside the entrance to my home. I turned around and I walked to meet them. Two of the men that I had volunteered to were standing just outside the entrance to my home. The man I had volunteered to was standing on the right as I looked at them. He said hello to me and then he told me that it was time for me to leave heaven. He told me that they would take me and accompany me to the place where I would leave heaven to go to experience a life on the earth. I was a little bit nervous and I thought to myself that the time had finally come and that now there was no turning back, no matter how scared I got. I shook my head in agreement and walked outside to them. We walked to the right, down the street where I lived in heaven and back into town and to the main street of the town that I lived in. When we reached the main street we turned right again and walked in the same direction as the group of people that had left heaven had walked a few days earlier. As we walked along the road, they both talked to me and I could tell that it was in an effort to divert my attention away from what was about to happen, and I could also tell that they were trying to help me and were trying to calm my nerves. But it made little difference as I was becoming very tense and frightened. We walked for some considerable distance and then, I am unsure how it happened, but as we walked, suddenly the ground changed as if we were being transported along the road for a great distance but without losing pace. We were still walking and talking but we had covered a very great distance and I was unfamiliar with the landscape. We continued to walk along the road until we reached the end of the road and then we kept walking in the same direction for a short distance after the road had ended. A little while later they both stopped and the man I had volunteered to said to me that this is as far as they could go and that the rest was up to me. I looked down at the ground and it was smooth, undulating and snowy white in color. Just ahead of where I was standing was a thick white ground level cloud which abutted the ground at ground level. Above this cloud and directly in front of me was a thick fog and a thick mist for as far as I could see. The two men I had volunteered to were standing on my left side and as we looked at what lay ahead they tried to encourage me and told me just to walk ahead and into the cloud. But I could not move as I was too scared. My whole body did not seem to want to function properly. As I looked ahead, I could not see if the ground fell away under the cloud cover or that the cloud was just lying on top of the ground, but I had a great fear that what lay ahead was very dangerous to me and I just could not move. The two men spent some time trying to get me to move forward by myself and finally, to save face and after some time, I took one step closer to the thick ground level cloud which now lay about one step ahead of me. I was so fearful I was even having trouble trying to think clearly, but I can remember thinking that if I were to fail now before I even left heaven then what would everyone think of me, and even worse, what would these two men that brought me all this way think of me? I did not want to be disgraced, so I had to finish what I had started no matter what, but how could I find the courage to do it? The two men I had volunteered to were now standing about one pace behind and to the left of me. The man I had volunteered to said to me, "Just close your eyes and take one step forward." He said, "Don't worry, just close your eyes and don't think about it, just do it." So, I closed my eyes and with some difficulty took one step forward. I paused for a while and with my eyes still shut, I took another step forward and into the ground level cloud. I found out that where the cloud touched the ground ended and I suddenly found myself falling down. There was no wind, but I knew I was falling very fast through this thick cloud. As I fell down, I kept consciousness for a few seconds but then my thoughts left me, as darkness took over and all my thoughts and feelings ended, and as this happened, I knew I had left the security and comfort of heaven. Peter Bowler, Wednesday, 27th September 2006.